Athletes who were caught cheating, Part 2. In 1994, on the day before the U.S. Figure Skating Championships, title holder Nancy Kerrigan was filmed finishing a practice skate, but just seconds later she was screaming in pain on the ground after a man with a police baton attacked her. The attack severely bruised her knee, which made her unable to compete. Her longtime rival Tonya Harding went on to take first place and was selected alongside her for that year's Winter Olympic skating team. However, police soon discovered that the attack on Kerrigan had been ordered by a bounty hunter. In a shocking twist of events, Tonya Harding's ex-husband Jeff Gillooly and her once bodyguard Sean Eckhart were labeled as the culprits. They'd hired the bounty hunter to break Kerrigan's leg, removing Harding's competition in the upcoming events. Although she claimed she had no part in the conspiracy, Harding later admitted that she knew her ex-husband had been involved, but she'd failed to report it. But karma had the last laugh. At the games, a malfunction with her skates saw Tonya placed down in 8th, while Kerrigan managed a silver in 2nd. Here are 3 regular things that are illegal in North Korea. Mourning without meaning it. Yes, you can go to jail for that. When a public leader dies, the citizens need to show intense hysteria and public mourning as a symbol of their loyalty and adoration. People who fail to put up a show are taken into custody, and the people who don't show up to mourn at all are executed. Jeans are also illegal in North Korea as they are seen as an American symbol. Since North Koreans consider America as their #1 enemy, jeans were banned. The hate towards the US and the West is so strong that kindergarten kids are being taught to dislike everything to do with them. There are estimated to be between 200,000 and 400,000 Christians in North Korea. However, practicing religion is illegal. Citizens are only allowed to worship Kim's family, and owning a Bible could get you in prison, or worse, executed. Just to make matters worse, Christmas was banned in North Korea too. This security video from 2016 shows American Otto Warmbier, who was visiting North Korea as a tourist, taking down a propaganda poster in his hotel to take home as a souvenir. But little did he know what he just did was a massive crime. When it was time to leave the country, he was detained and brought into custody, where he was sentenced to 15 years of imprisonment with hard labor for taking down the poster. But just a few short months into his sentence, he fell into a coma. After 17 months in captivity, the US and North Korea came to an agreement and he was freed in June 2017, still in a comatose state. When he arrived back home to Ohio, doctors discovered he had extensive brain damage, possibly due to abuse. And 6 days after his return, he passed away. Many say that North Korea purposefully put him into a coma so that he wouldn't be able to tell anyone what he saw or what was done to him. May Otto Warmbier rest in peace. Here were 3 of the most disturbing communities on Reddit. Just a quick heads up, if you have a sensitive stomach, don't go searching these subreddits. Let's start off with some mild stuff, shall we? The Reddit community r/human toilets is not just a place for pictures and videos of people using others as toilets, but also a meeting place for people who want to be used for those types of bodily functions. We live in 2022, and while some kinks are starting to be widely accepted, this shouldn't be one of them. The subreddit r/beatingwomen is a dedicated community full of photos and videos of women being assaulted, but also discussions on how to beat women and inflict the most pain. And the last one, and the one I do not recommend visiting, is eye bleach. A lot of people make the mistake between eye bleach with an A, which is a subreddit for cute animals, and eye bleach without the A, which is just pure gore, videos and images of cruelty, and much more. You'll definitely need to wash your eyes with bleach after seeing that. If these animal moments weren't recorded, no one would believe it. Part 2. On New Year's Eve in 2012, the people in Norway were confused when thousands of dead fish washed up on a beach. There were so many fish that they weighed an estimated 20 tons. But here's where things get crazy. Before anyone could even count the fish, let alone clean them up, the fish disappeared. No one's sure how these fish all washed up and then disappeared within a few hours. The fish clearly weren't alive as they were no longer in the water. So how on earth did they simply vanish? It makes no sense. According to the World Health Organization, it has recently been reported that an Ebola outbreak has been declared in Uganda. Health officials have found over a dozen cases of the infection, and already over 30 deaths have been attributed to the outbreak. This virus can spread through bodily fluids, and it can take several days for symptoms to appear, time in which the person is contagious. The disease causes both internal and external bleeding and is more often than not fatal. Unfortunately, there is no approved Ebola vaccine yet. This particular outbreak is caused by the Sudan virus, which has a mortality rate ranging anywhere from 20 to 90%. Because there is no vaccine available for this particular strain, authorities are working relentlessly to find the source of the outbreak, but also to isolate those who are currently infected, all in the hopes of containing this outbreak before it spreads more widely. This is probably the most messed up thing I've ever heard. In 2000, during the Sydney Paralympics, the Spanish learning disabled basketball team beat Russia in their final match to win gold. But after the games closed, a member of the team, Carlos Ribagorda, confessed something outrageous to the press. The team was supposed to be made up exclusively of players with an IQ of less than 70, but 10 of their 12 players were actually mentally competent athletes with much higher IQs than the maximum. Apparently, they had all signed up as part of a wider scheme to boost their country's chances of winning. They were even provided with fake medical certificates to help them feign disabilities. Worst of all, for 2 years leading up to the Paralympics, they had trained around the world beating disabled athletes. Shockingly, the mastermind behind the scheme was the president of the Spanish Federation of Sports for the Intellectually Disabled, but he was fined just 5,400 euros after admitting to charges of fraud and embezzlement. While watching the new mind-bending sci-fi show The Peripheral, it got me thinking, if you could see your future and use that information to make changes to your life in the present, would you want to? That's exactly what takes place in this show, where it is the year 2032 and Flynn gets the chance to beta test a new super advanced VR game. Through this simulation, Flynn can transport her consciousness into an AI avatar from an alternate future set in London in 2099, while her physical being remains in the past. The show introduces the concept of future bending, which is when you see what is going to happen in the future and use that information to make changes in your present, thus changing your future. So is this type of future bending actually possible? VR has come a long way over the last few years, allowing us to step into places we could only imagine. Who knows, that along with the known fact that space-time can be bent could one day allow us to experience this type of reality, hopefully sooner rather than later. To see future bending in action, tune into Prime Video to watch The Peripheral now. If these animal moments weren't recorded, no one would believe it. On New Year's Eve in 2011, the people in Arkansas, USA were shocked when it began to rain dead ravens. That's right, over 5,000 dead raven birds fell from the sky. This phenomenon remains unexplained to this day. No one is sure how 5,000 birds flying in the sky can suddenly pass away. Scientists found that they passed away from internal trauma, but there were no signs of damage on their outer bodies. There was also no sign that these birds were sick in any way. Here's what would happen if you stopped blinking. You're gonna be surprised with how fast you actually end up going blind. After 1 minute, you will feel slight discomfort, but it will be bearable. After 2 minutes, your eyes will start to tear up in a desperate attempt to lubricate the cornea. After 10 minutes, all kinds of bacteria and dust particles will deposit on your eyes, causing an irritating sensation. After 15 minutes, the blurry vision will increase and you will start to lose your sight. After 30 minutes, due to the dryness, your eyes will bulge out and the pain will feel as if someone is using a tattoo gun on your eyes. After 60 minutes, debris and bacteria growth will make your eyes a junkyard. And due to the dryness, your eyes are now unmovable. After 2 hours, the areas surrounding your eyes have swollen as big as a golf ball. But hey, you've made a new world record for holding it this long. After 4 hours, your cornea is starting to tear open, and your eyes are now under a serious bacterial attack that will soon kill your eyes. After 8 hours, you are completely blind now, and your eyeballs need to be removed to stop the deadly bacteria growth from spreading to the brain. This woman's story is so insane it might make you not want to win the lottery. In 1999, Tonda Dickerson went from being a waiter barely scraping by to a multi-millionaire overnight. While working at a Waffle House in Alabama, Tonda received a lottery ticket as a tip. 6 days later, Tonda realized she had won $10 million. But shortly after winning the money, Tonda's ex-boyfriend Stacy Martin kidnapped her at gunpoint. He was about to kill her when she took his gun and shot him in the chest. Stacy survived the shot and somehow faced 0 charges after kidnapping and trying to kill Tonda. Her bad luck didn't end after the attack, as she was then faced with a lawsuit by her past co-workers. The lawsuit claimed that Tonda made a verbal agreement with her co-workers to split the prize money. Then the guy who gave her the ticket, Edward Seward, also sued her, claiming she promised him a truck if she ever won the lottery. Luckily for Tonda, she won both of the lawsuits. After that, since Tonda was sharing the money with her family, the IRS imposed a gift tax of $771,000 on it. Times streamers were caught cheating. Alex Zedra, the voice actor for Mara in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, live streams on Twitch on a constant basis. She usually has other COD players on her stream with her, in order to boost their channels and help them gain traction. On one of those types of streams, Alex hosted Icy Vixen and soon noticed that this girl was playing way too well. In one instance, Icy Vixen was able to perfectly aim at an enemy through a hill, which made Alex question the legitimacy of her COD skills. It seems that Vixen was using either wall hacks or a namebot. Both of these hacks are banned by Call of Duty. And after Alex did some digging, she found out that Vixen was indeed using hacks in order to gain an advantage in COD. Once caught, Twitch shut down her channel. The backlash that resulted from Alex outing Vixen made her delete all of her social media accounts. Players and Twitch users then uncovered some of Vixen's old gameplay footage, in which it can be clearly seen that her aim was perfect even when her hands were nowhere near her setup. This man is a murderer, cannibal, and necrophile who never served any jail time for his crimes. Yes, you heard that right. Issei Sagawa is known for killing Renee Hartvelt in Paris in 1981. He killed the woman in her own apartment, had sex with her corpse, then consumed various parts of her body. All this while taking pictures of the corpse at each and every stage. But when he tried to dispose of the remains, he got caught by the French police. After being held for 2 years awaiting trial, Sagawa was found legally insane and unfit to stand trial by the French judge. So instead, he was admitted to a mental institution. But because of the publicity his crimes got and the fact that some people started treating him like some sort of celebrity, the French decided to deport him back to Japan. There in the Madzuzawa hospital in Tokyo, he was found by doctors to actually be sane. But as the charges against Sagawa in France had been dropped and the French court reports were sealed, he couldn't legitimately be detained in Japan. He was released from the hospital on August 12, 1986 and has remained free ever since, contrary to widespread criticism. This man managed to fake a coma for 2 years so he could avoid going to jail. After being found guilty in 2012 of stealing 40,000 pounds from his dementia-ridden neighbor, Alan Knight would start to pretend he was paraplegic and sometimes would fall into a coma. Conveniently, this happened every time the authorities visited him. This fake in-and-out coma lasted for 2 years, in which Knight had admitted himself into a hospital for 10 weeks and managed to convince even the doctors of this mysterious illness, meaning he laid there without moving or opening his eyes for almost 2 months. Eventually, 2 years later, police were finally able to find CCTV footage of Alan out shopping and images on his computer of him being just fine. The picture showed him and his wife on holidays, at weddings, Legoland, and many other places where a person with a coma would not be able to go. Alan was jailed for 4.5 years in November 2014 on fraud and forgery charges. People who outlived insane prison sentences. On May 5th, 1975, Otis Johnson was walking down the street when he was stopped and searched by officers in Harlem, New York. The officers alleged Otis fit the description of a man involved in a nearby shooting of a police officer. The description only said that the man was wearing a tan jacket, but that was enough to convince the officers of Johnson's guilt. Somehow, despite a glaring lack of evidence or credible eyewitnesses, Johnson was sentenced to 25 years to life for the attack he was accused of. His good behavior made him eligible for parole 9 times, and during several of his parole hearings, he was told that if he just confessed, he could walk free. Johnson clearly had a backbone made out of pure steel, because each time he refused to confess to a crime he hadn't committed. Fortunately, his 9th parole hearing in 2014 was positive and he was finally released. That means he had been in prison for almost 40 years, all because he was wearing a tan jacket. This woman's story is so insane it might make you not want to win the lottery. In 1999, Tonda Dickerson went from being a waiter barely scraping by to a multi-millionaire overnight. While working at a Waffle House in Alabama, Tonda received a lottery ticket as a tip. 6 days later, Tonda realized she had won $10 million. But shortly after winning the money, Tonda's ex-boyfriend Stacy Martin kidnapped her at gunpoint. He was about to kill her when she took his gun and shot him in the chest. Stacy survived the shot and somehow faced 0 charges after kidnapping and trying to kill Tonda. Her bad luck didn't end after the attack, as she was then faced with a lawsuit by her past co-workers. The lawsuit claimed that Tonda made a verbal agreement with her co-workers to split the prize money. Then the guy who gave her the ticket, Edward Seward, also sued her, claiming she promised him a truck if she ever won the lottery. Luckily for Tonda, she won both of the lawsuits. After that, since Tonda was sharing the money with her family, the IRS imposed a gift tax of $771,000 on it. This man was a rogue serial killer, but now he's a YouTuber. Pedro Rodriguez Fillo started to take lives at 14 years old when he killed the vice mayor of Alfinas with a shotgun for firing his father. While he was on the run, he met Maria Olympia. They quickly fell in love and got engaged. Unfortunately, soon after that, Maria was brutally murdered by rival gang members, so Pedro set out to seek vengeance. He infiltrated a wedding arranged by the rival gang leader and massacred 7 gang members, injuring many more. Soon Pedro got the news that his father was in jail for killing his mother, so he visited visited him in prison and killed him by stabbing him 22 times. He then carved out his father's heart and bit a piece of it. When he was rearrested in 1973, he claimed the life of 47 inmates. Even though he officially killed 71 people, he was only sentenced to 30 years in prison, since Brazil's maximum prison sentence is 30 years no matter the crime. After spending 34 years of his life in prison, he was released for the final time in 2018, and now runs a YouTube channel to prove he has a good side. Movie scenes you thought were CGI but are actually practical effects. In this scene from the first Spider-Man movie where Peter Parker acquires his spidey senses, Peter saves Mary Jane from falling when she slips on a spilled drink, and also catches her lunch tray with all its contents. This whole sequence was real and no CGI was used in the making. It took Tobey Maguire 16 hours and 156 takes to get this shot. Weightlessness is often shot using CGI in space movies, but director Ryan Howard wanted to keep it real in Apollo 13. He used a KC-135 Stratotanker for achieving zero gravity. A single flight provided the film crew with just 20 seconds of weightlessness, and it took the film crew 6 months to get all the zero gravity shots. Now, we all know Marvel is known for their extensive use of CGI, but the ending skydiving scene from Iron Man 3 was shot without CGI. The production recruited the Red Bull skydiving team to act out all the roles in the scene, and filming the sequence took almost 40 jumps in a span of 6 days. This is a plague doctor from the 17th century, and believe it or not, this ridiculous costume ended up saving these doctors' lives, but not in the way you might think. You see, these doctors were hired by cities during bubonic plague breakouts, and at the time, it was believed that this plague was caused by bad air, so they stuffed a bunch of spices into a beak to act as a respirator. They also wore a long gown coated in wax to prevent this bad air from sticking to them. Now, they were wrong about this bad air theory, as the plague was actually caused by fleas. But because they coated their gowns in wax, it prevented the fleas from nesting on them, which ended up saving a lot of these doctors' lives.